Welcome to my next video. Today I am going to touch upon foods and other things to avoid while being pregnant. This is something that you've probably heard about before. If you're currently pregnant, you should already kind of know the general guidelines, but if it's something you're just looking into, you're trying to conceive, you might not know that much about it yet, so I'm just going to kind of go over it. I hope you don't mind the camera format. We're still trying to play with it a little bit and get a good angle, lighting, things like that. So feel free to comment and let me know if you like this or not, or like some of the previous videos better. But eventually I will get it all down so it's the same all the time. So the big thing when you're pregnant is your immune system is not going to be as strong, and there are certain things you can pass on to baby without even knowing that you have them. You might not show symptoms of it. Two of the really big ones are listeriosis and toxoplasmosis. Listeriosis can actually cause miscarriage, premature delivery, severe birth defects, and other health problems for your newborn. So that's something that you can get from different foods that you eat. And again, it's something that's not very common, but if you ended up getting it, it could kill your baby. So it's kind of a scary one. And the chances of you getting it are not that high, but again, not really worth the risks either. Toxoplasmosis is something that's actually transmitted through cat feces. Now, if you have a cat at home, this is where the concern with changing the litter box comes in. It can actually stay in the litter as well, so it doesn't matter if you're not in direct contact with the feces. If you're around the litter, you can get it from that. You have to actually ingest it to get the disease. Now, you're probably thinking you're not running around eating your cat feces, but it's like any germs. You could get it on your hands without realizing it, and then touch your face, and then end up ingesting the germs. So it's definitely something to be concerned about. But you don't have to necessarily get rid of your cats while you're pregnant. Just try to have someone else change the cat box. They recommend, if you are changing the cat box, to wear a mask and gloves, and make sure you wash your hands and keep the area clean. If you've been exposed to toxoplasmosis before in the past, you're not going to pass it on to your baby. So pretty much, if you've already been exposed and had it, you're safe. Your baby's going to be safe. But if you are not, that's when you have cause to worry. And it's one of those things where you might not even show signs of having it, and you could still pass it to your baby. Even symptoms when you do get it, they can present itself as a mild flu, so you might not realize what it is. But definitely something to be aware of, be concerned with. I work with cats at work, so it's definitely something I've been a little paranoid about. I actually got tested for it during the early stages of my pregnancy. You can get tested, not to necessarily see if you have it, but it more tests your antibodies to the disease. So if you're at a certain level, then that'll indicate you have already been exposed to it, which again means you don't need to be as concerned. So I was tested for it. I have worked around cats pretty much my whole life. I grew up with cats. At my family's house, there were indoor-outdoor cats, which is more of a concern because the cats can get it from eating infected animals. They can get it from eating raw mice and things like that. So typically your outside cats are more prone to getting it. Your inside cats, they've never been outside. There's really not much of a chance of them getting it, but still should be a precaution. But I grew up with indoor-outdoor cats. I've worked in various kennels. I've worked in vet offices. I work at a zoo with exotic cats. So I figured my chances of already having it were pretty high, but I actually had not been exposed to it before. So I'm still very cautious about being around the cats at work. I do work with cheetahs on pretty much a daily basis, so whenever I am cleaning out there, I just wear gloves, change my gloves frequently, and I wear a mask when I'm cleaning, just in case I'm aerosolizing anything when I'm hosing out there. So that's something I've been pretty paranoid about. But again, the chance of actually getting it is pretty slim, and we have no idea if our cats actually have it. And there's no real way to test for it in the cats, because when you test a cat, they're only going to show positive if they're actively shedding at the time. And they could still carry the disease without being actively shedding. in theory, cats will only actively shed once in their lifetime, but it's something that I don't like to bank on, especially since with exotic cats, it's not as well researched as domestic cats. But either way, just something to be aware of and be cautious about, because toxoplasmosis can be pretty serious for your infant. It can cause you to miscarry, but it can also, it might not present itself, if your baby had it might not present itself right at birth. It could actually show up later in life and cause blindness or mental disorders, basically brain damage to your infant. And it may as well be there present right at birth. Your baby could be born blind or have severe brain damage, but it's also something that might not present itself for a couple years, so it's a little scary in that respect. As far as listeriosis and other things go, there's certain foods to avoid during pregnancy. A big one is deli meats, hot dogs, things like chicken salad, tuna salad, anything like that with mayo in it. Basically because these can carry listeria. This isn't such a big concern. Like, your chance of actually contracting it from eating one of these things is pretty small. But again, if you were to contract it, it could have serious side effects. So if you make your tuna at home, you know it hasn't been sitting around for a while, you can eat a can of tuna. Another concern with tuna, though, is levels of mercury, and this is the same with different fish. So whenever you're eating fish products, you can eat probably one can of tuna, one 12-ounce can of tuna a week without getting too high on your mercury level. Then you got to watch what other stuff you eat throughout the week as far as mercury intake goes, because your baby's going to be more sensitive to this than you are, and you're going to be passing along all of that. So you want to watch your mercury levels. Try to avoid fish with high mercury levels, like shark or swordfish. But again, going back to listeria, if you make your tuna at home, that's okay to eat. But there's a chance if you go out somewhere that has chicken salad or tuna or things like that, you don't know how long it's sitting out, it could possibly be carrying listeria. For as far as deli meats go, it is safe to eat if you heat them until they are steaming. So if you want a hot dog, you can eat a hot dog. Just warm it up first. I don't really know a lot of people who eat them cold anyways, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. Same with your deli meats, just heat it up first. I've gone to Subway and gotten a sandwich as long as I toast it. So other things to avoid are things like soft cheeses, like feta cheese or brie, and this is because they're not always pasteurized, and basically anything that's not pasteurized could carry E. coli or listeria. So that's something to be aware of. Anything with raw or undercooked eggs, again, just avoid that altogether. It can carry salmonella, and any of these diseases are something that would definitely be a concern when you're not pregnant if you were to contract salmonella, but when you're pregnant it's much more serious and it can affect baby a lot more. Because your immune system's weaker, you can also get it more easily. You won't be able to fight it off as well. So anything with raw or undercooked eggs, this includes things like cake batter and raw cookie dough. If you love eating cookie dough, just avoid it. There are some recipes out there that you can make cookie dough that does not have eggs in it. You can also use pasteurized eggs. Sometimes you can buy a carton of that in the store, or I've actually heard of buying a carton of eggs that's been pasteurized, but I don't know how easy that will be to find. Another thing that affects that is Caesar salad dressing. Now, Caesar dressing, it's really only concern if it's generally homemade, because Caesar dressing generally contains egg yolks, and you just need to be careful that they are pasteurized. So personally, I've just avoided Caesar dressing altogether during my pregnancy. I just don't want to risk it. It's just not worth the chance to me, however small the chance is. Another thing to avoid is sushi. Pretty much anything raw you want to avoid. Sushi can contain parasites, a host of parasites, as well as raw shellfish, which can contain a lot of different bacteria. Any type of raw or undercooked sprouts can again contain different types of bacteria. Unpasteurized juices, or cider, again, bacteria. Also avoiding meat spreads, again for that listeriosis, same as deli meat, so just try to avoid it altogether. Now, as I said, all of these things, like the chance of contracting these are pretty low. So some people do still eat a lot of these things during pregnancy and aren't that worried about it. When I talked to my OB about it, when I said, do you think it's okay to go out and get like a tuna sandwich at Jimmy John's or Subway? Her response was, is there really a big risk of you contracting listeriosis? Probably not. But is it worth that risk? Probably not. So for me, I just avoided all these things during my pregnancy. It's not a big deal to be able to go without for the 9 months. It's definitely worth it. Another thing to keep track of is your caffeine intake. They say you shouldn't drink more than 200 milligrams per day, which is about a 12-ounce cup of coffee. Now, for me, I love drinking soda, so this is kind of hard for me to cut back on, but I actually knew this ahead of time, and I started cutting back on my caffeine intake before I became pregnant while I was still trying to conceive. So this helped me a lot because I was not drinking as much coffee and not drinking as much soda. So I still, throughout my pregnancy, have been drinking soda, and I've been drinking an occasional latte or something like that, but I just make sure I don't drink too much. An average bottle of soda, 20-ounce bottle, does not actually contain that much caffeine. It's somewhere like 70 to 100 milligrams, so one bottle isn't a big deal. But definitely something to keep in mind. Some people cut it out altogether. I haven't found that necessary, but I just make sure I'm keeping track of how much I drink, especially if I, get a coffee in the morning. I might not want to drink a soda that afternoon. So these are all just things to keep in mind. You have to make your own decisions, be informed about it, but it's all deciding your own personal preferences. So don't feel like you're the most horrible person in the world if you eat a turkey sandwich for lunch. But again, just be aware of the risks associated with these things. So that's kind of everything I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and that you will stop in tomorrow for my weekly update. Thanks for watching.